Supply chains for many everyday products rely on vast global networks of suppliers, including raw materials producers, factories, mills, manufacturing facilities, and distribution centers. From garments and food to smartphones and telecom equipment, a finished product's journey can span thousands of miles, cross multiple countries, and involve hundreds of people. This raises important questions about how companies uphold ethical practices across their supply chains. Corporate decisions directly affect workers' lives, shaping working conditions, wages, and compliance with labor standards, such as prohibitions on child labor and protections for working parents. At the same time, choices about who is mapped, how data are collected, and who controls that information raises questions of justice, consent, and power, particularly across global North-South relationships. Companies' mapping practices also intersect with fair trade and anti-corruption concerns. Are small farmers and manufacturers paid fairly or pressured by pricing models that perpetuate poverty? Do company representatives reject corruption during negotiations or bypass scrutiny altogether? Consumers worldwide increasingly demand products that are ethically sourced and environmentally responsible. In response, companies adopt sourcing policies and facility guidelines that can prevent deforestation, reduce emissions, and protect biodiversity. When poorly implemented, however, these efforts risk becoming a form of ethics washing. To address these challenges, many companies use GIS and location analytics to promote supply chain traceability. VF Corporation, for example, publishes traceability maps for brands such as Vans, Timberland, and the North Face, showing manufacturing facilities and textile mills around the world. These maps can help identify opportunities to improve sustainability and worker well-being, while also allowing consumers to visualize product journeys and review disclosed facility information. When used responsibly, this transparency can support accountability and trust. However, polished traceability maps can also obscure harm. Maps that highlight certifications and success stories while omitting wage theft, union busting, or unresolved safety violations risk reinforcing ethics washing. When mapping prioritizes brand risks, such as reputation or regulatory exposure, over the lived risks faced by workers and nearby communities, including pollution, displacement, or violence, ethical imbalances deepen. Careful governance is also needed to avoid exposing sensitive locations, such as migrant worker housing or organizing spaces that could be targeted if data are shared or breached. Other companies, including H&M, Natura, Nespresso, and Marks & Spencer, alongside coalitions like the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, also rely on GIS to track progress on ethical sourcing, worker safety, human rights, and environmental sustainability. Yet these initiatives often depend on suppliers, workers, and small producers providing granular location data without sharing equally in the economic, environmental, or reputational benefits that mapping create. Ethical GIS practices therefore ask not only what is mapped, but who decides, who benefits, and what happens when harm is revealed. Before deploying GIS for supply chain traceability, organizations should consider establishing ethical safeguards grounded in shared responsibility and historical awareness. This includes clear data governance around ownership, retention, and reuse, meaningful consent so workers and producers understand what data are collected and can challenge misuse, and protections such as aggregation or masking for sensitive locations. Ethical practice also requires mechanisms for suppliers and communities to contest and contextualize maps, shared governance structures beyond corporate compliance teams, and predefined remedy pathways when mapping reveals harm. GIS can support transparency, but it cannot replace labor rights enforcement, collective bargaining, or regulatory accountability. In this framing, ethics is not just an add on to supply chain mapping, but the lens through which decisions about data, representation, and action are made. Ethical GIS requires not only seeing more, but deciding more carefully with those most affected playing a meaningful role in how maps are created, interpreted, and acted upon.